The most expensive mistake you'll ever make has nothing to do with money. It's a quiet one, a slow one. It's the gradual accumulation of a life you never actually chose. It's the 1,000 tiny compromises that, when added together, build a prison of comfort you're too afraid to leave. You won't like what I'm about to say, but you already know it's true. I know what your day looks like. The alarm goes off, and before your feet even touch the floor, your hand finds your phone. The blue light is the first thing you see. A scroll of trivialities. Other people's curated happiness, the world's manufactured outrage, emails from people who want something from you. It's 100 tiny paper cuts on your attention before you've even had a chance to decide what your day is for. You get ready. You commute. You sit in traffic or on a train, staring out the window, and for a fleeting moment, you feel it. A hollow space in your chest. A quiet question. Is this it? But then a notification pops up, or the podcast starts and the feeling is gone. Buried. You get to work. A job that, if you're being brutally honest with yourself in the dead of night, you don't really care about. It's fine. It pays the bills. It's respectable. But it doesn't light a fire in you. It doesn't ask for the best part of you. So you spend 8-10 hours a day being a competent, professional, slightly bored version of yourself. You attend meetings that could have been an email. You write reports that no one will read with the passion you've been told they deserve. You're a highly paid administrator of your own slow burnout. Then you go home. You're tired, not a good tired, from building something you love. It's a wired, anxious tired. The exhaustion of 1,000 small inputs and 0 meaningful outputs. You tell yourself you'll work on that thing, that project, that book, that business idea, that skill you've always wanted to learn. But the energy isn't there. So you turn on the television. You scroll again. You consume. You numb the quiet ache of a day spent on things that do not matter. You go to sleep and you promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow is the same. And the day after that. And the weeks turn into months, and the months turn into years, and one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. The spark is gone. You're not living a life. You're managing a backlog of obligations. You have become a passenger in your own existence. I know this feeling. I've lived it from the inside, and I've seen it from the outside. When I came back to Apple in 1997, the company was drowning. It was 90 days from bankruptcy. But the problem wasn't just money. It was something deeper. Apple was drowning in opportunity. It was drowning in good ideas. It was drowning in its own past. I remember walking through the campus, looking at the product roadmaps. It was chaos. There were dozens of products, dozens of versions of the Macintosh, the Newton, printers, scanners, monitors. Each one had a team. Each one had a champion. Each one was someone's baby. And they were all, collectively, sinking the ship. The company was busy. Incredibly busy. But it was busy going nowhere. It was producing clutter. I called a meeting with the top executives. We stood in front of a whiteboard. For hours, they tried to justify every single product. They defended their turf. They explained the market share for this, the potential for that. It was all reasonable. It was all logical. And it was all killing us. I was exhausted. I felt that same sense of being overwhelmed by noise that you feel at the end of your day. Finally, I grabbed a marker and I'd had enough. I told them, stop. I drew a simple 2x2 grid on the whiteboard. On the top, I wrote Consumer and Pro. On the side, I wrote Desktop and Portable. 4 boxes. I pointed to them and I said, this is our product line. We will make one great product for each of these boxes. That's it. The room went silent. You could feel the panic, the outrage. We had something like 350 products at the time. I was proposing we cut it down to 4, to get rid of 97% of what the company was doing, To fire, in a sense, 90–70% of our ideas, our projects, our commitments. People thought I was insane. They told me it would destroy us. But what I knew deep in my bones was that the opposite was true. The clutter was destroying us. The lack of focus was the cancer. Your life right now might feel like that old Apple product line. A sprawling, confusing, exhausting mess of projects, obligations, and shoulds. You're trying to be a desktop and a portable and a printer and a scanner all at once. And it's killing the part of you that can actually build something great. The part of you that matters. The real problem isn't that you're lazy or undisciplined, it's that you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how a meaningful life is built. You think it's built through addition. You think if you just add one more skill, one more contact, one more productivity app, one more morning routine, one more book to your to-read list, that you will somehow finally become the person you want to be. You treat your life like a hard drive, believing that the more you store, the more valuable it becomes. This is the mistake. This is the most expensive mistake of all. Because the one thing you can't add more of is time, or focus, or energy. These are finite. And every time you add something new and trivial to your life, you are subtracting from the space available for what is essential. The problem is that your life has no organizing principle. It's a collection of artifacts, not a curated work of art. You're operating on a default setting that is programmed for accumulation. Saying yes feels productive. Saying yes feels polite. Saying yes avoids conflict. Saying no feels like a loss. It feels like you might miss out. So your life becomes a monument to your fear of missing out. A calendar full of just-in-case meetings. A phone full of just-in-case apps. A mind full of just-in-case worries. You are not designing your life. You are hedging your bets against it. The result is a fog. A low-grade, constant hum of static that prevents you from hearing your own thoughts. You can't tell the difference between the signal and the noise anymore because the noise has become the soundtrack to your life. Clarity is impossible in a room full of echoes. This brings us to the turning point. The one idea that, if you truly understand it, will change everything. Your life is not built by what you add. It is sculpted by what you are willing to carve away. Think about that. A sculptor doesn't create a statue by adding clay. The statue is already inside the block of marble. The sculptor's job is to remove everything that is not the statue. Your greatness, your purpose, your most meaningful work. It is already inside you. Your job is not to add more to yourself. Your job is to courageously, ruthlessly subtract everything that is not you. To carve away the obligations, the distractions, the expectations of others, the trivialities you've accumulated, until what is left is what is essential and beautiful. This is not a one-time decision, it is a daily practice. It is a philosophy for living. And it is built on a few core principles. First, stop collecting dots. Start connecting them. Most people live their lives as dot collectors. They read a book, that's a dot. They go to a seminar, that's a dot. They learn a new software, that's another dot. They collect these dots in a giant pile, believing that one day, magically, the pile will become a picture. They live in a perpetual state of getting ready. They tell themselves, I'll start my business once I've taken this marketing course. Or, I'll write my book once I've read these 50 other books. It's a form of sophisticated procrastination. The reframe is this: dots are worthless in isolation. Their only value comes from the lines you draw between them. You don't need more dots. You need the courage to connect the few you already have. When I dropped out of Reed College, I took a calligraphy class. It seemed pointless. It had no practical application in my life. It was just a dot. I was fascinated by the typography, the spacing, the artistry of it. 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh, it all came back to me. And we designed it into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never taken that one class, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. It was a dot I collected, that I connected a decade later. But here's what everyone misses about that story. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. This doesn't mean you should wander aimlessly. It means you must choose your dots with intention. You must follow your curiosity, your intuition, your heart. Pursue the things that fascinate you even if you can't see the immediate payoff. What this means for you today is simple. Stop hoarding information. Pick one idea from the last book you read and apply it. This week, stop enrolling in online courses you'll never finish. Take one thing you already know and use it to build the smallest possible version of your idea. A single web page, a one-paragraph blog post, a 5-minute conversation with a potential customer. Don't collect another dot. Connect two that you already hold in your hand. Second, trade popularity for respect. The most common reason we accumulate clutter in our lives is the fear of disappointing others. We say yes to a project we don't have time for because we don't want to let our boss down. We say yes to a social event we don't want to attend because we're afraid of being seen as flaky. We keep our opinions to ourselves in a meeting because we don't want to rock the boat. Every one of these yeses is a betrayal of your own focus. The common mistake is believing that being agreeable is the same as being valuable. It's not. People-pleasing doesn't earn you respect. It earns you more requests. You become known as the person who will always say yes, which means your time is seen as infinitely available and, therefore, worthless. The reframe is this: a clear no is one of the most respected things in the world. A no that comes from a place of deep conviction, from a clear sense of your own priorities, is powerful. It tells people that you value your time. It tells them that your yes, when you give it, actually means something. You don't get respect by being a utility player for everyone else's agenda. You get respect by having an agenda of your own. When we designed the first iMac, we made a decision to get rid of the floppy disk drive. People went crazy. They said we were arrogant. They said we were out of touch. The entire industry was built on floppy disks. It was the popular, safe, easy thing to do to just leave it in. But we knew the future was in CDs and, eventually, the Internet. The floppy disk was a piece of the past, and to build the future, we had to let it go. It was an unpopular decision. But it was the right one, and in the long run, it earned us respect for having the courage of our convictions. We were willing to be disliked in the short term to be right in the long term. What does this mean for you? Look at your calendar for the next week. Find one thing, one meeting, one coffee, one commitment that you said yes to out of obligation, not enthusiasm. Find a polite, honest, and firm way to say no. You could say, I've had to reassess my priorities and I can no longer commit to this right now. No long excuses. No lies. Just a simple, respectful refusal. The discomfort you feel will last for 5 minutes. The time and focus you get back will last for hours. Start with one, small, powerful no. Third, design your absences. Our culture is obsessed with presence, being on, being available 24/7. Answering an email within 3 minutes is seen as a sign of professionalism. Being constantly connected is seen as a sign of importance. This is a trap. A mind that is always reacting cannot create. A mind that is always available is never truly present for the deep work that matters. The mistake is to measure your value by your responsiveness. To believe that being busy is the same as being effective. You're not a 911 operator. Most of the urgent demands on your time are not actually urgent. They are simply other people's poor planning, disguised as your emergency. The reframe is to see your absence as a tool, a strategic and necessary component of doing great work. Your best ideas will not come when you're in a meeting or clearing your inbox. They will come when you are on a long walk, in the shower, staring at a blank wall. Your greatest breakthroughs happen in the spaces you create. Between the inputs, silence is not empty, it's full of answers. At Apple, the design studio was a sacred space. For hours, Jony Ive and his team and I would just sit with a prototype. We wouldn't always talk. We would just look. We would feel it. We would let the object speak to us. We were absent from the rest of the company's chaos. That absence, that focused silence, is where the soul of a product was found. The long walks I took were not for exercise, they were for thinking. I was absent from my desk, from my phone, from the demands of others, so I could be fully present with a problem. For you, this means scheduling your absences. Put it in your calendar. 30 minutes, no phone, no computer. Go for a walk without listening to anything. Sit in a room with a notebook and do nothing. At first, it will feel terrifying. Your mind will scream for a distraction. That is the addiction to noise speaking. Let it scream. Wait. In the quiet that follows, you will start to hear a different voice. Your own. Protect this time as if it were the most important meeting of your day. Because it is. And fourth, choose your beautiful constraint. We have this fantasy that freedom is having unlimited options. Unlimited time, unlimited money, unlimited resources. We tell ourselves, if only I had more of X, then I could finally do Y. This is the ultimate excuse for not starting. The truth is, creativity is not born from infinite possibility. It is born from constraint. The mistake is waiting for the perfect conditions. It's believing that you need more before you can begin. This is a recipe for a life spent waiting. The reframe is to see constraints not as limitations, but as a gift. A beautiful constraint is a boundary that forces you to be clever. It removes the paralysis of infinite choice and gives you a clear problem to solve. It's the fence that shows you where the playground is. When Woz and I were building the first Apple computers in my parents' garage, our constraint was everything. We had no money, we had no staff, we had no factory. We had to use off-the-shelf parts. We had to be ridiculously resourceful. That constraint wasn't a bug, it was a feature. It forced a kind of elegance and simplicity that we would have never found if we'd had a billion-dollar R&D budget. The iPod's promise wasn't all the music in the world. It was 1,000 songs in your pocket. A beautiful constraint. It was simple, understandable, and it focused the entire design and engineering process. So, what is your beautiful constraint? Instead of, I want to start a business, what if your constraint was, I will help one person with one problem this week for $20? Instead of, I want to write a book, what if your constraint was, I will write 300 words on one single idea every day? Don't wait for the open field of infinite possibility. Build a small fence. Give yourself a rule that makes the task so small, so simple, so focused that you can't help but start. The constraint is what will set you free. Imagine two futures, 10 years from now. In the first future, you change nothing. You continue to accumulate. You keep saying yes. You keep prioritizing responsiveness over focus. Your days are still a blur of notifications and obligations. The pile of unread books is taller. The list of unfinished online courses is longer. The quiet ache in your chest is now a constant, dull throb of regret. You scroll through the lives of others who took a chance, who built something, who sculpted their life, and you feel a bitter envy. You are safe, you are comfortable, and you are haunted by the ghost of the person you could have become. Your life is not your own. It is a collection of other people's priorities. Now, imagine the second future. Today, you decide to make the first cut. You say no to one small thing. You delete one app. You schedule 30 minutes of silence. You choose one tiny beautiful constraint for that project you've been dreaming about. It feels awkward at first, but you do it again the next day. And the next. Slowly, you begin to carve. You remove the meetings that drain you. You let go of the friendships that are built on obligation. You curate your information diet as carefully as you curate what you eat. 10 years from now, in this future, your life feels spacious. You wake up in the morning and you feel a sense of calm purpose. You know what the one important thing you need to do today is. Your phone is a tool you use, not a master you serve. You are not famous. You may not even be rich, but you are the author of your days. You have built one or two things that you are deeply proud of. A small business, a beautiful garden, a strong relationship with your kids, a body of work that has your fingerprints all over it. You look in the mirror and you see someone who is a little older, yes, but you see someone who is fully alive. You see a sculptor. This is not a fantasy. It is a choice, and it begins right now. Don't try to do everything I've said. That would just be more accumulation. The point is to subtract. So I ask you to make one decision, not a to-do list, a to-don't list. What is the one thing you will remove from your life, starting today, to make space for what matters? Is it an app, a notification, a meeting, a person, a belief you hold about yourself? Be ruthless, but start small. The first cut is the deepest. It's the declaration that you are no longer willing to be a passenger. It is the moment you pick up the chisel. Your life is a block of marble. Inside, it is a masterpiece. Your masterpiece. No one else can see it. No one else can carve it. Only you. The cost of a cluttered life is the one you never got to live. Stop adding. Start sculpting. So, did you do it? Did you find one small useless thing and cut it away? A notification you silenced. A meeting you declined. An obligation you finally let die. Maybe you did. For an hour. For a day. You felt the space it left behind. A small pocket of quiet in the usual storm. It felt good. It felt right. But the world doesn't like a vacuum. The noise rushed back in to fill the silence. The clutter seeped back under the door. And that feeling of control, that brief moment of clarity, vanished. You're right back where you started, buried in the trivial, with a faint memory of what it felt like to breathe. You think the problem was that your cut wasn't big enough. You think if you just had more willpower, if you could make a grander gesture, then the change would stick. You're wrong. The problem isn't the size of the cut. The problem is you're still holding the wrong tools. You're trying to sculpt with a butter knife. You're chipping away at the marble, but you don't understand the stone. To subtract is not just an action. It is a philosophy. It requires a new way of seeing. It requires a new set of principles. I didn't just walk into that boardroom at Apple and start firing people and canceling projects at random. The cuts weren't arbitrary. They were the result of a ruthless, disciplined clarity. That clarity came from 4 rules. Not rules for business, rules for focus, rules for creating something beautiful out of chaos. These are the sculptor's rules. They are the tools you are missing. First, stop collecting. Start connecting. Your brain right now is a warehouse. It's a dusty, sprawling mess filled with unopened crates. You spend your days as a collector. You collect facts from podcasts, opinions from social media, tips from articles, and instructions from your boss. You hoard information, believing that one more piece, one more dot, will finally complete the picture. You are a highly paid administrator of your own burnout. You tell yourself, this is learning. This is growth. It's not. It's intellectual gluttony. You are drowning in dots and you've forgotten why you were gathering them in the first place. A masterpiece is not made from the quantity of material. It is made from the connections between the pieces. When I was at Reed College, I dropped out. I didn't have required classes anymore, so I dropped in on the ones that looked interesting. One of them was a calligraphy class. It was beautiful. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about the varying space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was historical, artistically subtle in a way that science couldn't capture. It was useless. I had no hope of any practical application for this in my life. But I was connecting, not collecting. 10 years later, we were designing the first Macintosh computer. And it all came back to me, all of it. The kerning, the proportional spacing, the artistry. We designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely no personal computer would have them. I didn't know where that dot would lead. I couldn't connect the dots looking forward. I could only connect them looking backward. You have to trust in something. Your gut, your destiny, your life, your karma, whatever. You have to trust that the dots you already have will somehow connect in your future. You have enough dots. The work is not to find more. The work is to sit in the quiet and find the brilliant, invisible lines that already exist between them. Your life's work is not in the gathering. It is in the connecting. Stop being a collector. Start being an artist. Second, say no to 1,000 things. This is the hardest rule. It will cost you. People will not like it. You will be called difficult. You will be called stubborn. You will be called an asshole. Good. Popularity is the currency of the mediocre. Respect is the currency of the creator. You do not get respect by saying yes. You get it by saying no. Saying no is the most powerful act of creation you have at your disposal. It is the sculptor's chisel. Every chip of marble that falls to the floor is a no. It's a no to that shape, that curve, that possibility, in order to reveal the one that matters. When I returned to Apple, we had 350 products, 350 yeses. Each one had a team. Each one had a champion. Each one was someone's baby. My job was to say no. Not 10 times, not 100 times. I had to say no 346 times to get to the 4 products that would save the company. Each no was a battle. Each one hurts someone's feelings. But innovation is not about being polite. It's about focus. It's about choosing. I would rather have the brutal respect of the few people working on the things that matter than the weak affection of the many people working on things that don't. You are drowning in a sea of polite, meaningless yeses. Yes to that coffee. Yes to that project that doesn't excite you. Yes to that friendship that drains you. Yes to a life that is a comfortable, sprawling mess. You say yes because you have a disease to please. You say yes because you are terrified of the confrontation of a simple, honest no. Every time you say yes to something you don't believe in, you are saying no to the masterpiece inside you. You are choosing the easy affection of others over the difficult respect of yourself. No is not a rejection. It is a declaration. It declares that your time, your energy, and your attention are finite and sacred. It clears the space. It draws the boundary. It is the first, most brutal, and most necessary strike of the chisel. Start saying it, polite, honest, and firm. Don't apologize for it. It is the sound of you choosing your own life. Third, engineer absence. Look at your life. It is engineered for constant presence. Your phone is wired to your nervous system. Your calendar is a Tetris game of other people's priorities. Your mind is a room full of echoes filled with the noise of 1,000 tiny inputs. You cannot hear the signal in that static. A masterpiece is never revealed in a crowd. It whispers to you when you are alone. You believe deep work happens when you muster enough discipline to ignore the noise. You're waiting for a moment of divine inspiration to strike you in the middle of your chaotic day. It will not come. You cannot out-discipline a system designed to distract you. You have to escape the system entirely. You must engineer absence. This is not a vacation. This is not taking a break. This is a deliberate, strategic, and sacred act of disappearing. For me, it was long walks. No headphones, no company. Just my feet on the pavement and the space for the dots to finally connect. It was a room with a whiteboard and nothing else. It was sitting with a new product, feeling it in my hands for hours. No phone, no computer, just the object and my thoughts. Absence is a vacuum. It pulls the essential to the surface. Your task is to build your own sanctuary of absence. It might be a 30-minute walk every morning before you let the world in. It might be 1 hour every evening in a room with just a notebook and a pen. It might be turning your phone off and leaving it in another room for the entire weekend. It will feel terrifying at first. Your mind, addicted to the stimulus, will scream. It will itch for a notification, a headline, a distraction. Let it scream. This is the withdrawal. On the other side of that anxiety is the quiet you've been starving for. It is the sacred space where your intuition can finally speak. It's where the whispers of your own heart become louder than the roar of the world. You cannot sculpt in a hurricane. Find your shelter, build it, protect it, and enter it daily. That is where the work is done. Fourth, find your beautiful constraint. The mistake you make is thinking that freedom is an empty field with no fences. You think that if you just had unlimited time, unlimited resources, and unlimited options, you would create your magnum opus. You wouldn't. You'd be paralyzed. True creativity is not born from limitless freedom. It is born from a beautiful constraint. The 2x2 grid I drew on that whiteboard wasn't just a business strategy. It was a creative constraint. It was a beautiful, elegant box that forced all our energy, all our genius, all our passion into just 4 focused targets. It was the fence that turned an empty field into a stadium. The constraint is what gives your work its shape, its power, its soul. The first iPod had to hold 1,000 songs and fit in my pocket. That was the beautiful constraint. It forced us to invent the click wheel. It forced us to rethink everything about navigation and storage. The constraint wasn't a limitation. It was the engine of innovation. The iPhone had 1 button on its face. 1. That constraint forced us to invent a multi-touch interface that changed the world. Your life is a sprawling, unfenced field. Your energy is scattered in 100 different directions. You are a little bit of everything, which means you are not truly anything. You need to find your beautiful constraint. It is not a prison. It is a focusing lens. It is a declaration of what you will be world-class at, and a ruthless abandonment of everything else. What is the one thing you want to pour your soul into? What is the one box that deserves all your focus? Is it your craft, your family, a single audacious project? Choose one, just one. Build a fence around it. That is your beautiful constraint. Pour all your energy, all your no's, all your absence into that single, defined space. This is the final tool of the sculptor. It's the frame that gives the sculpture its meaning. Without it, you're just making a mess. With it, you can make a masterpiece. These are the rules. They are simple. They are not easy. They are the difference between a life of frantic, exhausting addition and a life of focused, beautiful subtraction. They are the difference between being a passenger and being a sculptor. The marble is in front of you. The tools are in your hand. The question is no longer what you will remove. The question is, what will you protect?